Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would like to introduce Danielle Matthews. Is it Matthews or Matthew?
Matthews.
Matthews. At the age of 23, Danielle was hit by a drunk driver and sustained a life-altering injury to her brain. The medical world said there was no hope of recovery and told her to accept this life as her new normal. Although her body was physically impaired, her spirit was strong and she refused to believe their diagnosis. Her mind was determined to recover, and she did. She is a testament to the concept of post-traumatic growth and has since built an international business, leading an organization that did 2.2 million in sales last year, authored an ebook called Mind Control, It's All in Your Head, and shares her life-altering experience with countless people around the globe. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast, Danielle.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, pleasure. Wow, what an incredible story. And I love the alignment here. So thanks so much for being open, raw, vulnerable, and energetic. I really appreciate your energy and your connection.
Yeah, I'm back at you.
Oh, wow.
Like attracts like, so it's no wonder.
It's a vibrational reality we live in, that's for sure here, Danielle. Yeah. Danielle, this is a motivational podcast about people's journeys. So I'm interested, we are interested. What got you to where you are at today?
Man, my life went upside down is what had to happen. So when I was 23, up to that point in my life, I was doing really well. I had gone to University of Virginia, gotten a degree in biology, performed well in all the ways that I think society would say that you should, or whatever that might look like. Then I was hit by a drunk driver and my world went completely upside down. I found myself unable to concentrate for more than 10 minutes, couldn't get the words out I wanted to. I lost my job because I couldn't perform. And I found myself with no income, having to move back in with my parents and just focus full time on trying to get healthy. And, when you're in your 20s, you don't think you're going to lose your health. You don't have a plan B financially. You're just in this situation that you never expected. And for a long time, I would say at least a year, I was in the space of feeling like a victim, feeling like this shouldn't have happened to me. This isn't fair. Why me? And that is not a very healthy space to be in. But it is something that, I had to go through, and I had to go through those emotions. I went through severe depression, a lot of anxiety, till it got to the point where, a year in, my doctor told me this was my new normal. He basically said, with your type of injury, there's nothing more we can do, and you need to adjust your life around this. And that was actually my wake-up call, interestingly, because inside of myself, my higher self said, no, you will get your health back, right. But we're going to need to deal with this emotional, mental stuff in the meantime. And that's really where the work began, the inner work that has allowed me to, come out of that and do so much more. But there's a lot of levels of what that looks like. And I think, my story, I hope other people can find themselves in it. Not that you have to have a brain injury, but when understanding that, look, life can throw stuff at us and it can seem like the worst thing, but it can turn into the most phenomenal thing. I look at this and I say, wow, I'm so grateful because this put me on a very different path where I got in touch with my true self. I had been so identified with the Danielle that showed up in the world, right? The high performer, the athlete, the friend, the teacher, all those things. When those were all taken from me, it was like, well, who am I? And what is the point of me being here? Right. And I think how fortunate I was at a young age, like you, that I got to ask those questions, that I got to be in a position where I had time to ponder them and actually learn that there is so much more to life. And when you tap into those spiritual aspects of life and your true self, you find a happiness and a peace that you can't find in the external world, that no thing, no accomplishment, nothing will bring what this can bring to you.
Danielle, were you spiritual prior to the injury?
No. I grew up Methodist, and then in that religion, when I was 12, I got confirmed. And then I said to my parents, if I had grown up somewhere else in the world, then we would be going to a different church and we would be having a different religion. So what makes this one right? Mm-hmm. And my parents didn't have an answer. And I said, okay, then I'm going to stop going. And they said, okay. And so I couldn't find, there was no religion that was resonating with me, because I always felt like when I look at someone in their eyes, like I see God. That's how I've always felt since I was little. But no one was articulating that in a way. And it wasn't until my accident and finding myself in a position, like I shared, I couldn't work, couldn't do all these things, that yogic philosophy actually found its way to me. And I had a teacher that explained things in a way that I went, this is how I've always felt. This is it. And I don't know, the yogis just have a way of putting it that I'm like, yeah, that's how I see it as well. I'm not talking about like Hinduism. I'm talking about just this way of looking at life. And it wasn't until my accident that I really was able to understand it, to dive into it more, to have someone kind of give me a little bit of guidance to understand what I was navigating inside and what I was feeling inside.
Do you remember what that was that you learned about the yogi tradition that kind of snapped you back into a different path?
Yeah, so it was 2015. I'll never forget. I went to a course. So one of the things when I was healing that I started doing was a practice called Yoga Nidra. It's a guided meditation. And I did it specifically to help with migraines, because my migraines were so intense. When I would do this, it gave me like a break from it for a half hour. And it also helped me to learn how to sleep, like to teach my brain how to turn off again and actually sleep at night. So I was using it for like these physical things, not realizing, why it had been invented and what it was. Yeah. But along this journey, a woman, her name is Kamini Desai. She is an amazing woman. Her dad is Amrit Desai. He founded the Kripalu Institute here in the US, one of the biggest ones. Like, she grew up at an ashram, right? But she then left and sought Western knowledge. She got a PhD in psychology, and now she teaches both. But while she was while I was in this space, she was writing a book, and she needed help on basically like how to reference different research. And I'm really good at that. So I was helping her like 20 minutes a day, what I could. And in this, I'm like learning more about meditation. And at the end of the project, she said, Danielle, I'd love to gift you, the training. You can come and learn how to be a facilitator of Yoga Nidra. And I kind of blown it off. But then I moved to Florida. I remembered she was in Florida, and I said, actually, could I do that training? And she said, yeah, I'm 2 hours from you and it starts in a week. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm sitting there, and one of the first things she ever did, she said, the yogis pondered this question. If there was one thing that, if known, solved all problems in the world, what would that thing be? And she then took us through this exercise where she had us close our eyes and be on a beach and like see a boat coming into our view, and then taking over our view. It's all we're seeing, and then leaving our view. We opened our eyes again, and she said, are you the boat? And I thought, what a silly question. Like, no, I'm not the boat. Obviously, I'm looking at the boat. Like, what did I come here for? And she said, the yogis would say the boat is your thoughts. Wow. And you are the one that is there before, during, and after your thoughts. And the problem in life is that people don't realize this. They think they are their mind. They think they are their thoughts. And if you can get to the space where you realize that you are the thing watching them, and you can disidentify from them, now you've been able to get to a space where you can create new intentions. You can decide to make deliberate decisions about what you engage with and don't engage with. And they designed Yoga Nidra as a tool to help you do this, to help you disengage from the mind and get to this space.
And to become the observer of your own thoughts.
Yes. And I was like, yes, this is it. Like when my accident happened, I had been identified with all those things, right?
Yeah.
And then those were gone. And I was like, who am I? And I'm like, oh, I'm the thing that's still here, observing all of this. And it sounds so simple, but when you really get it, it's like, wow, so I can be fine no matter what comes into my life, because it's like the sky, like the thunderstorm that just blew through. Like I've got like sunlight again. And it's like the sky was there at peace when the storm came in. It's at peace when sunshine's there. It's no matter what.
It's always at peace. Yes.
Yeah. And that's the essence of you. You were that.
Absolutely. Wow. What a realization that must have been for you. And how soon after realizing this, that you're the observer of your thoughts, and therefore you can basically have different intentions and create your own reality of sorts, right? For sure. And at that point. Yeah. When did you actually start to feel better about the trauma that he had gone through with the brain injury?
Yeah, that was an evolution. There's several aspects. Like there's the physical side, and then there was the mental, emotional, spiritual side. And I would say a year in, when my neurologist said to me, "This is your new normal," that was when I started to kind of wake up to, okay, I need to work on the mental, emotional side here, because otherwise I'm not going to want to live this life, because it doesn't seem worth living.
Sure.
And so I started to just not allow myself to think about the future because it caused me anxiety. I didn't think about the past because it made me depressed. I just was present. And isn't that the essence of every spiritual practice? To be present in the moment.
Exactly.
It's like, what a gift. I was forced into the present.
Right.
And then I said, what would make me happy now? Like, what would bring me joy? What can I be grateful for? And I started to just make my mind only think about things I could do rather than things I couldn't do. And in doing this, everything shifted. Like everything shifted for me mentally, emotionally, and then spiritually it opened up. But I was still physically not well. It actually, though, we're aware of the law of attraction,
Yes.
and we joked about it, like attracts like, but it's truly actually the law of vibration. The vibration you hold will attract in things at that vibration. Well, as my vibration shifted, like I didn't know that I was doing this because I was unconscious to it at the time. And I was holding this space of gratitude, of, joy. We got a phone call from an acupuncturist that said she had started working with a biotechnology that was doing amazing things in her practice. It was stimulating cellular repair. And she said, it doesn't matter what someone has going on. It just goes into their body and it helps their cells better communicate to repair damage and get back to functioning optimally. She said, I'm seeing it help with hormones. I'm seeing it help with neurological things. I'm seeing it help with digestive stuff. She's like, it'll pass the blood-brain barrier. It'll help Danielle. So
that's incredible.
Yeah. Attracted in the answer. It's like, it's amazing. But what's hilarious is I missed it because I was expecting to just like wake up healthy one day. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought like, I'm just spontaneously going to heal. Like it's ridiculous verbalizing it now, but I didn't expect the answer to be in something that I was going to have to drink, like my brain had never thought of that as a possibility. And so when it first came in, I thought, this is a scam. Like, this sounds too good to be true. Like, no way. Like, I actually ignored it for several months. And then finally, my parents were like, Danielle, this stuff can't hurt you. Like, it might help you. Why don't you just go for it?
Right.
And and it was like, I think about 90 days into using it. It's called a SIA. Redox signaling is like their technology.
Redox signaling, huh?
Yeah, it changed everything. All of a sudden, the pounding that had been relentless for 2 years, gone. I started to be able to concentrate again. I had energy again. And then it took time for my sensitivities to noise and light to go away, but they've also since like completely disappeared.
And so in having this therapy, you said you had to drink it. It was something you drank?
Yep, it's a liquid. It's like a liquid that is made of reductants and oxidants. That's what redox stands for. And it's just like reductants have an extra electron. And oxidants can take one. And when you get down to like, if you're looking at the body, we're just trillions of cells, and those cells have to talk. And how do they do it? They do it through electron transfer. Like that's how it all works. And you made a lot more of these redox molecules when you were young. And so as you get older, the body's making less. And it's kind of like having a cell phone, right? That doesn't have a strong signal as it gets.
That makes sense.
So this just puts signal back. And, for me, I was young, but I had so much damage. It was like the call for help was too weak. And then when I added this in, it amplified the call for help. My body could do what my body is designed to do, and it could heal itself.
And how long, you said it took a few months, about 2 or 3 months before you started to feel?
Yeah, it was like 90 days, around 3 months before I started noticing things. And then after that, it just like things continued to get better. And now it's been 8 years. I still drink it not because if I stop, my injury is going to come back. Like, no, that's repaired. But it's like, I lost my health once, never want to lose it again. And so I think anything I can do to proactively keep my body well, this identifies damage before it gets to the point that my system even knew there was damage because it's working with the cells. And so, for 8 years now, I'm like on point. I've got great energy. I don't get sick. My body is just like functioning at its prime. And I think my wish is for everyone to feel that. Like there is no one needs to be stuck like you were, like I was in this space where we're not healing. And it's like the medical community has some options, but They don't have all. There's a lot of different things coming out all the time. Like, it's amazing what science is providing us. Like, it's just absolutely phenomenal.
Can this redox medication fluid, I mean, what is it under? Is it, I mean, I know it's not like an immunosuppressant, so what is it actually categorized as?
It's funny because every government, as they've like gone into other countries, the governments are always like, how do we categorize this? Like, what is this?
Yes.
Because it's really a replenishment of something that our body makes, so it's kind of in a category of its own. But what they've landed in is they call it a cell signaling supplement. So it's in the supplement category. It's not nutrition. It's not an antioxidant. It's not like all this other stuff we're used to hearing about, but it's, yes, cell signaling is how it's classified. And in all of my years and with my background in biology, like, it took me a long time to wrap my head around this, because I thought, what I was hearing and now what I've seen is that this will go into any living thing, plant, animal, human. It'll go in and it will stimulate communication so that wherever that plant is damaged or animal is damaged or person has damage, it'll repair it, because it's non-specific. It's not like the cells in my liver talk a different way than the cells in my bladder. No, they all talk with the same electrons, like the same communication molecules.
Right.
And so it will go in and do something different for everyone, which makes it sound too good to be true, to be blunt, but when you understand the mechanism of action, you go, wow, like, that's profound. I mean, it's a massive breakthrough. I think, my opinion, obviously, but I think this is something that will be in every household. I think
Yeah,
it's
I was
kind
just
of
gonna
like,
I was just gonna ask you this, like, how readily available can this be for other people? I just feel like the way you're describing it, I feel like people with cancer, people with Alzheimer's, dementia, I mean, all kinds of people. I mean, me, anybody can be
right.
using this, So it's like, I wonder what it's gonna take for it to be more readily available.
Yeah, it's kind of like when penicillin came to the marketplace. Like, can you imagine
Yeah.
someone knocking on your door and being like, hey, you got an
Yeah.
infection? Like, here's some bread mold. It's like,
Oh
what?
yeah.
What? And I feel like it's the same with this, because redox molecules are made from saline. Like, literally, think about your body.
Wow.
Your body's a sack of salt water. And so what's most readily available? Sodium and chloride from salt,
Yeah.
hydrogen and oxygen from water. But the body can make a lot of different combinations of that. Like hydrogen peroxide's H2O2, water's H2O. You add another oxygen, super different molecule.
Yeah.
And so the body is like its own pharmacy. It's making different combinations of that. But if you look at the ingredients of the product, it says saline, because all that went in were those 4 building blocks. And it's like, I think it's taken time for people to like wrap their head around that.
Yeah.
But it is available. Like, you can get it. You have to get it through like a rep. You can't just go to the store and buy it, because it requires some education. You kind of need some assistance with it. So it's something that, I mean, it is readily available, and it will be in everyone's house. It's just the awareness isn't there. People are slowly kind of becoming more and more aware of it.
Well, I'm definitely gonna ask my immunologist about this next time I see him. This is incredible. I want some redox. Hook it up, doctor.
Yeah,
So
it's
tell
exciting.
us more, Danielle, about your post-traumatic growth. I'm assuming that this happened once you actually started you got on the redox, things start to heighten, I guess, become I guess I almost said the word enlightened, but you
Yeah,
kind
I
of
would
did
say.
become enlightened. Yeah. And awaken to your true self, your abilities and your capabilities. What is post-traumatic growth?
The concept of post-traumatic growth, I didn't understand it until someone said to me, Danielle, you're the epitome of it. And I said, what do you mean? And I said, post-traumatic growth is people, trauma survivors, people that have been through intense things, that are able to look back and say, look, it is because of my trauma that I was able to step into my purpose, that I was able to do something that I never would have done otherwise, that I was able to become someone that's made a big influence in the world. And with me, I went through this, the redox changed my world. So then I started to share it with other people. I then built an international business. I've helped thousands of people with their health, learned about this. And I also, along the entire way, yoga nidra, talking about spirituality, personal development, that's been a part of everything that I do, because this all came together for me, mental, emotional, spiritual. And, having that success, it's like, had that injury never happened, I never would be here. Those thousands of people never would have been helped. And that's where, that's an example of post-traumatic growth, using this trauma to actually propel me into the next phase. And this is something that I love shining light on, because I think, unfortunately, in meaning well, people will watch someone going through a hard time and they'll say, I'm so sorry that's happening to you. You
Yeah.
don't deserve that. You know, you
Yeah.
deserve better.
Right.
And it's like, that doesn't help. Like, people said that to me all the time.
I know,
And I'm
right?
like,
It doesn't.
this is just useless information. Like,
Yeah,
stop.
that never helps.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you what, one person, and it was a therapist I was seeing at the time, he said to me, Danielle, at the end of this, you're not going to have some degree, you're not going to have some piece of paper, but you're going to have emotional intelligence that is higher than your peers. It will make you a better mother if you choose to have kids. It'll make you a better, wife, et cetera, all this stuff. And I remember holding on to that, because at the time I felt like I was drowning, like that I was going nowhere, and it was just going to be who knew what in the years to come. But he was telling me, like, no, there's a different kind of growth that's going to happen through this. And I think we could do better with the people around us if we watch and see someone going through a difficult time, to say to them, look, like, it might not feel like it, but what you're going through is going to cause you to grow. You are going to learn things. It's like when you go to the gym and you break down muscle. Yeah, it breaks down, but then it comes back stronger. And like, we get it for our physical body, but people don't get it for the mental, emotional, spiritual side. Like, you have to go through obstacles. You have to go through challenges in order to gain the strength, to gain the resiliency, to be able to realize that you've got everything you need inside of you, to wake you up to the fact that you're connected to the infinite, that you have an intuition that tells you everything you need to ever know. And you never need anything from anything external. Like, it's all within. But if you don't go through hard times, you'll never be forced to sit down and reflect on these things and to listen.
Absolutely agree. There's no way I would be the person that I am today had I not gone through all the things that I've gone through, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I mean, I found my spirituality when I was in hospitals, and kind of feeling like there's nothing left to my life. So I definitely agree with you on that. Man, I love that post-traumatic growth. I'm going through post-traumatic growth myself. This is incredible.
I was like, you're the epitome of it.
We both are. Yes. And I need to tell my guests that this incredible term, because so many people I interview have gone through so much trauma, and now they're doing something with their trauma, turning their pain. They're going from pain to gratitude. And that's really the most beautiful thing you could do there.
Exactly. I call it turning pain into purpose. Like, that's what you're doing. And, everything, this world that we're in, like, I love the visual of a yin yang, that's that symbol where you've got black going into white, and it's just this total flow. And I think what happens in life is we pull apart that polarity. We've got day and night, we've got love and hate, we've got good and bad. That's just part of this world. That's part of what we experience here on Earth. And unfortunately, I think what our mind does, the human side of us, it pulls these things apart and it says one is better than the other. I want all pleasure, I don't want pain. And so when we're in this dual space, like, we're constantly at conflict. And I think what needs to happen is you need to bring things back together and look at it as a whole picture, like that unity of the two together, and go, look, this might be a dark time, but in dark times, that's when I can find more about myself. I can find these strengths and capabilities I didn't know I had. I can get stronger. They call it the dark night of the soul.
Right.
Because you're going inward, you're getting in touch with the soul, and it will phase out, and you will go back into the light. You will go back into a time that is maybe less intense for the internal growth. You can experience, things on the external world, but it will cycle back. And I think people get scared and they start pushing away the painful stuff, and it's not going to go anywhere. And it's just going to sit there until you pay attention to it. So
it's going to make itself more known and more known until you actually sit down and listen to it.
Exactly. You'll bang yourself into a wall again and again, or situations will keep happening. Relationships will keep happening. You're going to keep finding yourself wherever you go. So the sooner you deal with it, the better your life's going to be.
And also with the whole yin yang duality of it all, that's also masculine and feminine energy. It's both energies. Yeah, so the logic mind and the emotional mind coming together as one whole. And that's what people need to embrace. And I do feel that there's a lot of people that run away from their emotions rather than embracing the emotions and being afraid of it. Our emotions are language of the soul, and they're here to communicate something to us. And if we don't sit down and listen to these emotions, we're going to be missing who we are inherently as a soul, as a human, as a person, as an entity.
Yes. I got to talk about this. What you just said. I just got back from a trip to Iceland. Now, I think most people go to Iceland because they're like going to explore all the beauty, right? The land of fire and
Yeah.
ice. I for sure enjoyed the natural beauty, but I was going there for a yoga therapy. And Kamini Desai, the same teacher that I told you I met in 2015, she's been telling me, Danielle, you will love this. You got to come. So she was teaching it, and she was teaching it in Iceland. So I went. I didn't really know what I was getting into, but here is like the yogic perspective on exactly what you just said. You know, the yogis will say you're the ocean, right? Is consciousness. It is source. It is whatever, the divinity, God. And you come into expression as the wave. All right. And when you do that, they talk about you have levels of your body that get more and more dense. So you've got the bliss body, then you have the wisdom body, the mental, the energy, and the physical. And what's really interesting, meditation, right? It takes you down into the bliss body. It connects you back into your source. You come back to the ocean, to your divinity. In yoga therapy, it's the opposite. You're going into the physical body and you're allowing the physical body to talk to you, which it does through sensation. And what they say is that, you know, our vessel, this body is like a tube and emotions come through and they run through and we let the like pleasurable ones go. But when painful ones come, we put a block. And energy is energy. It's not created or destroyed. So when it's blocked from flowing through the tube, right, we've all pushed tears down and not allowed ourselves to cry. The best thing when we actually let ourselves cry, you know?
Yeah.
But what the yogis say is that energy starts to like build back on itself. And they call it a grunty is the Sanskrit word for it. And it gets lodged somewhere in your body. And what's so fascinating is that like, if you don't deal with it, like, and if it's been there for a long time, it will just build and build and build and build. And if you ask people, like I would have always said, I have a weak low back, like my lower left back has an issue. And, you know, you're probably well aware of this, like Louise Hay's work and all these people, there's the mind-body connection and like where you hold emotions in your body can physically show up. And this practice of yoga therapy, you literally just hold space for someone to start identifying sensation in the body and then asking them, what is it telling you? And it is amazing. It like gets you into the subconscious because that is, as you said, like that's the language of spirit. And spirit is trying to tell you what's going on. And it was like, I've never had an experience like this in my life. I mean, one piece was, you know, I realized that it was fear that I was holding, you know, and then you have to let your mind move out of the way so that the energy body can take over. And the energy is your life force. It knows what to do, but our mind blocks it so often. And when you can put it to the side and you can say, okay, I trust, you know, this to move through your system, it will move out these blocks without talk therapy, without having to figure out where it came from and, you know, who traumatized you or whatever. It just goes right in and removes it. And I had a profound experience. I mean, for 45 minutes, energy took over my system and my body was moving and releasing things. And it was so profound. And my back left hip, it's like I've got room in there now. Like it is phenomenal, you know, what you can do. And these are ancient practices, like no wonder, like they figured it out because they spent their lifetime trying to figure it out. And, you know, we have access to it, but so many of us cut off even feeling. Like a lot of people are just like numb to their body because it's been so painful or whatever it might be. They're very much living in their head. And so we have to connect again. You've got to, you know, be comfortable moving into that space because all it wants to do is be felt. Like it just wants to continue its process through the tube and that's it. And, you know, we get really scared and it's like, no, it just needs to flow. Like you blocked the flow, let it flow.
Yeah. What a lot of people don't know and they're not aware of is that your body's constantly keeping score and it's going to be storing all pains and all traumas, all anguishness, all bitterness, all resentment. And it starts to develop in the form of disease and pain and chronic dysmotility, all kinds of stuff. And one thing I learned with myself after losing my ability to urinate like a normal person, I lost my ability to pee. For people listening for the first time, I was diagnosed with a rare genetic disease called Muckowell syndrome, and I lost my urinary bladder 9 years ago. But now what I know now is the things that I was storing in my sacral chakra, the sacral region where the bladder was located, what's located in that area, a lot of the types of fears that are located are fear of you being who you are, your gender expression, your sexuality. And at the time I was female and I wasn't able to express myself, my true identity. And lo and behold, how did I lose my ability to pee? And that is the very center, the very part where the expression of gender and sexuality is at,
Yep.
and for fears are stored. So when you start releasing these fears, you start to allow the natural flow of your chakra energetic system through your body, and you start to be able to communicate in harmony with your entire body, your cells, your feelings, and everything starts to come into harmony and synchronize with each other. It's really beautiful the way that happens. And one thing I actually went through just 2 weeks ago, Danielle, this is crazy for me. So I started to get really, really deep into meditation to the point where I'm doing these salt baths with crystals and releasing negative energy and just trying to get rid of blockages and stuff. And lo and behold, I mean, it's like 5 days after I'm doing these intense 45-minute, 1 hour meditations. I mean, how is it? Obviously, it's not a coincidence that I end up with a quote unquote stomach virus and I've got loose stomach for a week and followed by a migraine. I mean, I've been completely healthy. My blood work. Yeah. And so my doctor's like, drop your blood. You probably have inflammation. I'm like, okay, guess what? My blood work is the healthiest it's ever been. So I'm like, you know what? The only thing that makes sense to me, how does everything come out normal? It's obviously my body getting rid of stagnant energy, emotions, whatever was stored in my solar plexus is gone. Because here I am like 4 days after all of that happens and I feel completely renewed. I have more energy. I have a clearer mind, and our body is always storing these things. So we can go in, take the trash out by going in with ourselves, meditating. And, you know, a lot of people are like, I don't meditate. I don't know how to meditate. The only thing I can tell people that say that, just give yourself 5 minutes. Just sit there and say, you know, wow, look at that tree outside. It looks beautiful. Those leaves are nice. As long as you can just get yourself out of the constant rut of what do I have to do? Or like you were talking about, thinking about the future, thinking about the past, and just keep yourself as present as possible. That's where all the magic happens.
Yes, it is. And you absolutely were just experiencing an energetic detox. That's all it is. And you might
That's
even
the word. Yeah. Energetic detox. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
like, and that's like what yoga therapy, you basically did yoga therapy on yourself. Like that's exactly what I went through last week. And it's like so profound that this part of you is there. Your energy body can do this for you. It's just, we never let it, we block it. But when you get the mind out of the way through meditation or what, if you need a facilitator, right, then you can get to this space where things can be released. And, you know, our teacher was sharing with us, like, you might see that people's body parts will move on their own. Like the person's not moving them, the energy is moving it. You might see that people like burp, or they feel like they need to vomit, or they might after the, like you know, need to go to the bathroom a lot. And it's like, whatever way the system can eliminate, that's how it's going to do it. So I mean, I love, you and I had a very similar experience last week.
Wow, I wish I would have done it in Iceland though.
I know, right?
That would have been magical. So Danielle, what do you tell people when they come to you and they're at their worst and they're just like, you know, I don't know how you did it. Right now, my life sucks. I'd rather be dead, or I just can't keep going, or I'm the worst husband, or I'm the worst wife, or I've just, and the worst of the worst. And you having to have gone through and you're still working on it and you're continuing to release traumas. What kind of advice do you give these people? What kind of words of wisdom do you give them?
First of all, I say, I get it. And just remember that this is all part of the human evolution. Like, your soul came in to experience these things. And so the question is, what lesson are you supposed to be learning? What is this challenge making possible, is how I like to frame it often. And, you know, I try to give people the context of looking at the bigger picture and saying, okay, you're forgetting right now that there's unity. And you're just right now in a darker time. But remember, it's a cycle. It goes from dark to light. And you have to just, maybe this happened, maybe the pivot from dark to light was very quick and very intense. And like, there's a shock to your system because it went from wonderful to, you know, the death of someone or whatever it could have happened. It can happen very drastically. And the system can't adjust. Step back, get the bigger picture and say, okay, this will pass. And in the meantime, what am I learning? Because every single thing in your life is happening for you. Right. And the question is, what is it revealing? You know, I talk a lot. I wrote an ebook. It's like a quick little thing, but I talk about that we have these seeds within us. Like we talked, so, all right, go back to that tube thing, right? The stuff that's getting stuck in us.
Yeah.
Those emotions, like we talked about how to release them, but they also get triggered. So a lot of times
Yes.
things happen in life. Yeah. And we're like, no one ever listens to me. Nobody loves me. Like, why do, we get all ticked off. Well, the trigger is actually your teacher. Okay. The
I love
situation,
that. I
the
love that.
person, the trauma that you're going through, right? It's triggering stuff in you right and left. And so the opportunity here is to go within and go, what is being triggered? Like, what is stuck within me? And I found, like, just talking for myself, I had a lot of like self-worth stuff, where I didn't feel worthy. And it was fascinating the way it would show up. And I'd go, wow, man, here it is again, that like the reason I'm feeling upset or angry or put off or whatever is because I have this feeling of unworthiness, and this person triggered it in me by not answering the phone, or like whatever little minute thing happened. I have this big explosion, and it's like, that is not about this. This is something within me. And that's the opportunity that most people miss, because they try to control their environment so that they're not triggered. They try to say to their loved ones, don't ever do this because it's not okay. No, you're trying to block yourself from not having to feel that thing that is just asking to be felt. And every time it gets triggered, it's saying, hey, I'm here. Like, deal with me. But we try to avoid it.
I love that. I love it. And so many people are avoiding triggers. So many people are avoiding triggers, even all over social media. Don't, this is a trigger for me, or that's a trigger. It's like, wow, that's actually where you need to go in, dive deep and figure that out. See what your answer is going to be right there. Happiness is going to be right there in that trigger. You're going to find your joy within that trigger.
Yep. And it's so amazing, because we get into this dual world. Like, we pull apart, I only want the things that make me happy. I don't want the things that make me feel bad. Like, no, you have to have them both. You have to have them both. And if you lean into this and you look at it as like, you bring a playful spirit to it, don't judge yourself for the way that you're feeling or what's within you. Like, a lot of times this stuff is lodged from stuff that happened in your childhood, where you didn't have the emotional capacity to deal with things, or somebody said something to you that it got stuck, and it's just in there, and it's just asking to be felt. And as you go through this journey, you might find that, now you've worked through this lifetime, and now you're working on past life stuff, and you're moving through that, which is going to help your soul's journey going forward. And that's what we're here to do, and if we don't do the work, it's never going to go away. You're just going to have to deal with it again, or it's going to get more intense, or whatever it might be. So, the faster you look, the easier it's actually going to be.
I think that the biggest challenge is, as far as like my friends, for instance, if they have questions for me, it's like, how do I know which is the right voice to listen to in my head? Like when I was going through my energetic detox last week, I was asking myself in the salt bath, or the crystals, or however you want to say it, what am I learning from this? Or what am I gaining from this? What is being released? And I kept hearing and feeling the words, you're gaining confidence. You're opening your solar plexus. And I was like, okay. But that's because I've done the reading, I've done the research, I understand what information is coming to me. But what about the person that doesn't know this stuff? What about the person that's not informed on chakras or meditation or yogi stuff? Like, how do they know which voice to listen to?
What I say is, if what you're hearing, because I hear both. I hear my intellect and my ego, and I hear intuition. I hear both. Sometimes I get confused too, like, whoa,
Yeah.
If it's coming based on fear, it's ego.
Fear is ego. Yes.
Yeah. And so if whatever's coming in has fear wrapped in it, ego. If it doesn't have that, that's your intuition. So your intuition saying, no, this is self-confidence, right? Your ego is probably saying, oh my God, you're going to get sick. You need to go to the doctor. Like, what's going on? Like, that's fear.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the one that you just go, shh. And you listen to the other.
And the intellect is the one trying to explain things or make sense of it.
Exactly. It's just processing. And if the intellect can only go based on data that it has from this lifetime, like logic, like stuff that has actually happened. And when you pull from that, it's trying to keep you safe. So it's going, okay, these are all the things that could be happening. Like, go to the doctor, you're sick, versus the intuition is pulling from source. It's pulling from the divine that knows all, that sees the bigger picture, and is saying, no, like, we're just releasing the solar plexus now, like, lean into it, let it go. It's going to be beautiful on the other side. Like, again, like you feel the difference in the lightness of that
Yeah.
feeling.
You know, I
Like,
remember learning in Buddhism that a good way to figure out whether it's intuition or whether it's your ego is one, as exactly what you said, is the question that you're asking yourself, is it coming from fear or is it coming from love? And if it's coming from love and the answer is a loving answer, that is your intuition from the divine. And if it's anything other than, it's not the quote unquote right answer or the right path or the
yeah,
path with the light.
exactly. Yeah. And it is that simple. Like, you know, we complicate it and we doubt and whatever it might be, but you know, everyone has access to this stuff. And the other thing is, like, you don't have to go through a major trauma like we did. It's
Right.
just that our soul, we were just so not listening that it was like the universe was like, boom.
Oh yeah.
Sit down and pay attention.
Oh yeah.
um Big time. But you know, you don't have to. Like, you can just make the decision to go, okay, I want to explore this more. Just be open to, it's just about inner work. It's just about the inner dimensions of life and learning about yourself, and that will open all of this up to you. We all have access to it. You and I are not unique. We didn't go through these, you know, medical crazy things,
Right.
and it opened up some line of consciousness. No, we started to ask the questions to find it.
Right.
And I just want everyone to know, you know, if you're going through a tough thing, this might be what is opening. But even if you're not, like, explore this side of life, because, you know, I don't know if you found this. Sounds like you were like an achiever in life. And I don't know. I would always push for things, and then I'd get them. And there was still an emptiness. You know, I had the thing that society said I wanted, or, you know, I was first place at whatever. And it still was like not enough. And it never felt like it could be satisfied. And it's because, like, the satisfaction comes from internal things. Like, it will never come from the outside world. It'll never come from a relationship. It'll never come from a car, a house, or whatever. That's all temporary. And the within, that's where it is. So if you're searching, like, it's inside of you.
It is inside of you. Danielle, this has been incredible. I love talking about all this stuff. It's my favorite subject, my favorite topics to discuss. How can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find your ebook and get a hold of you if they need to get a hold of you, or any of your social media handles?
I'd say Instagram, probably the best one.
Instagram, excellent.
Yeah, it's just my name, Danielle Matthews, and I've got an underscore at the front and the back, because apparently I'm not the only one. So
Okay.
you can find me there. And there's a link in my bio to the ebook. If you want to experience, if you're one of these people that says, I don't know how to meditate, I have a yoga nidra on there that I've recorded.
Awesome.
It will help you drop into that space first time. And then I've got info on the redox too, if people want to learn more about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Danielle Matthews, everybody, incredible interview here. I'm just so happy that we got to connect and discuss these incredible topics that are lighting a path for people, especially if they are new for people. And I hope that our listeners are gaining incredible insights as I am. Thank you so much for sharing your love, light, and all of your wisdom. Keep going, keep flowing, keep meditating, keep sharing your light with the world.
Oh, thank you. And back at you.
Thank you so much.